this idea of aliens, I mean, for the last 70, 80 years has just been nonstop, every year pushed with every form of media you can imagine. Comic books, magazines, movies, TV, everything you can imagine, guys. Literal government agencies talking about it. I mean, they've got what the government agency called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I believe that's where they have all the telescopes and everything, and they're pointing them at space, and supposedly they're just pointing them at the firmament. But
like in the movie Contact, Jodie Foster.
Like Contact, that's right. So they have millions and millions of dollars going towards the propaganda that all this alien stuff is real. But guys, we want to try to share some ideas with you from history tonight that hopefully will help you understand this is nothing new under the sun. This is actually repackaged, just like we've said on this show, and also on my channel. NASA, their whole theology, their whole view and teachings of the heliocentric cosmology is repackaged from ancient India, and specifically from Vishnu and some of the multiverse and cosmic belief sets that was propagated by Vishnu and Brahma from ancient India. So another unique parallel with ancient India are these ideas of Vimanas. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Vimanas are what we're seeing in the sky when people take home video and when clips are being released by the news. In ancient Sanskrit, Vimana means measuring out and to traversing. Basically a craft that goes forward, right? Mm-hmm. The Bowden professor of Sanskrit at Oxford University in England in 1890 translated the word Vimana as the chariot of the gods. But we're not talking about the God of heaven and earth. No. We're talking about other gods, Nephilim gods. So it goes on to say, this is some of the writing of ancient India, specifically in the Bhagavad Gita Maratha, I think is what it's called, speaking about different types of Vimanas, what they called flying craft of the gods. The Pushpaka Vimana was a gigantic plane the size of a large city, entirely capable of holding unlimited numbers of people, as stated by Professor D.K. Kanjalal's observations of the Matsya Purana, which is one of their Vedic texts, their religious texts. So guys, this is telling you that they had massive, what did we see West plays in movies like Independence Day?
Yeah. I mean, so many of them.
A big plane that could be an entire city by itself.
That would fill up the entire camera angle view of the sky, right. At least. So yeah, a massive city-sized craft. And as big as this creation is, it would not, I wouldn't put it past the elite to have something like that hidden.
That's right. And they go on to expound about what these things were, how they worked. There's an incredible amount of information in ancient Sanskrit that details who flew them, how they were used for war, how they controlled people, how they were given to the gods. And so right here, it says in Sanskrit, in the Samaranganana Sutradhara, I don't think I said that right.
You did pretty good.
It's an ancient Vedic text, and it says it's written that the strong and durable must the body of the Vimana be made, like a great flying bird of light material. Inside, one must put the Mercury engine with its iron heating apparatus underneath. By means of the power latent in the Mercury, which sets the driving whirlwind in motion. The what? The Mercury engine sets the driving whirlwind in motion. What do we see from all these UFO sightings? That these planes or these craft that are moving through the clouds are usually spinning. I got a picture.
Yeah. Okay, I got later.
You. Yeah,
and it's reminiscent also of like when Ezekiel was caught up into the heaven. It's like a fake of that, like a
right.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say, driving a whirlwind in motion, a man sitting inside may travel a great distance in the sky. The movements of the Vimana are such that it can vertically ascend and vertically descend, and moving slanting forwards. These descriptions are incredible. Moving slanting forwards and backward. With the help of the machines, human beings can fly in the air, and heavenly beings can come down to earth.
All right.
Interesting.
How interesting. How old would you say this? Like
these texts are supposed to be 3,000 to 4,000 years old.
Have mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long before the modern invention of electricity, right?
Right. We're talking Tower of Babel days, guys. So at Rama's, here's another quote from some of their writings. At Rama's behest, the magnificent chariot rose up to a mountain of cloud with a tremendous din. That word din means like a tremendous blast of power.
Okay.
Another passage reads, the Bhima flew with his Vimana on an enormous ray, which was as brilliant as the sun and made a noise like the thunder of a storm.
Like a ray of light?
It sounds like a rocket blast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He flew
like fire.
Fire array. So these are just a few descriptions. It goes on to say in another passage, according to the Dranaparva, part of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, one Vimana described was shaped like a sphere, and it borne along at great speed on a mighty wind generated by Mercury. And that also is referred to as Quicksilver. Mercury is also known in history as Quicksilver. So, wow. Right. It's telling you that it has propulsion according to this Mercury. We're going to go into that in a minute and how NASA uses it. I'm actually going to show you guys later NASA's when the actual ion propulsion Mercury engine that NASA invented in the 70s and gave to the Smithsonian. I got a picture of it.
Okay.
So it goes on to say, in the Laws of the Babylonians, which is this particular book that was written in Mesopotamia in Sanskrit. I'm going to go over the history of that just a minute because a lot of people are going, wait a minute. I thought the Babylonians were in Mesopotamia and the Indians were in India. What's going on here? Just give me a minute. I'll explain. In the Laws of the Babylonians, written in Sanskrit, part of the passage of the Hakata, it unambiguously states that the privilege of operating a flying machine is great. The knowledge of flight is among the most ancient of our inheritances, a gift from those upon high. We received it from them as a means of saving many lives.
No,
guys, what have we been talking about? About the false Christs that would appear. What's the world been prepping through all these movies with aliens, that there's good aliens that are going to come help us to fight off the bad aliens.
And what is a Christ? A savior.
A savior.
Saving many lives. So wild.
It's crazy, guys. So this is ancient Babylonian depictions of Vimanas used by Babylonian rulers in Mesopotamia. They're everywhere. They're literally sitting in one of these saucer-shaped crafts in the sky. So it goes on to say, a lot of people may be asking Wes, right, but wait, Sean, I thought Sanskrit was an ancient Indian language. Why are the Babylonians in Mesopotamia talking about it? Well, PhD Indian philosophy,
Peter
Sahata, he actually is a historian as well, and he explains that during the mid-second millennial, which is 1500 BCE, this is probably during the days of Joshua, Indo-Aryan tribes migrated both east into India and west into northern Mesopotamia. And through an Indo-Aryan wedge, as new waves of Indo-European migrants came down into present-day Iran, the earlier wave was wedged apart. Those who went west became sort of a ruling elite of the Hurrian people to form a powerful Mitanni kingdom. The evidence for this is seen in a treaty between the Mitanni and the Hittites. The Hittites, well, that sounds biblical.
It sure does.
Sounds like the Amorites and the Hittites that lived right next to Iran in Assyria. Okay, so anyway, I'm being a little facetious, guys. Just the point is, all these tribes and cultures work together. The Bible is super relevant. This is the people that the Israelites were dealing with that were worshiping false gods. Those false gods and their rulers had crafts that they actually flew in the sky to perpetrate deception and power over their peoples. This is why they received worship as gods. This is why the God of the Bible was so intent on telling the Israelites, hey, don't believe all that. They're not real gods. They had deceptive signs and wonders even back then. So it goes on to say that the Mitanni Sanskrit is considered to be a slightly more archaic form of Sanskrit than the Vedic Sanskrit. Sadly, these people seem to have got lost in subsequent history, but thankfully, those who went to India are keeping this tradition alive. So here's an Indian philosophy history PhD telling you that, yes, these two cultures, the Babylonians and the Indians, had intermingled all the way back to 3,500 years ago. And Mikey is back with us. What's up, Mikey?
Thank you for rejoining us, brother.
Thank you for having me back, guys. Sorry about that.
No worries. And anybody who has not seen, I would highly recommend the entire series. If you go to Kingdom Cast, that's Sean's backup channel, he's got a whole series called Investigating Babylon. There was a episode of that called Flying Machines, of Ancient Flying Machines, something along that effect. That is an amazing breakdown of more detailed presentation of what he was just talking about. It's
I'm just giving you snippets right now. We're actually getting a little bit deeper into the India history about this with the Vimanas. But if you guys check out that series, I go over the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Akkadians, all those guys, because they all had the same tech. They all shared the same theology. They just had different names for it because they spoke different languages after the tower. So it's the same deception perpetrated on every nation. That's why they all worshipped a version of Baal. Here's the point. In the Indologist, William Clarendon, so another Indian researcher and expert of ancient India, he says he has written down a detailed description of the Mercury vortex engine in his translation of the Samaranga Sutra Dhara, and he quotes this: inside the circular airframe of this craft, where the engine is, place the Mercury engine with its solar Mercury boiler at the aircraft center. By means of the power latent in the heated Mercury, which sets the driving whirlwind in motion, a man sitting inside may travel a great distance in a most marvelous manner. 4 strong Mercury containers must be built into the Vimana. The Vimana develops thunder power through the Mercury.
Oh yeah, they're building these things right now behind our backs.
Oh yeah,
they have been.
Thunder power.
Yeah, this is.
If they have this much detail, like that's all they need. Like, okay, we can figure this out.
Well, you guys remember that specifically Hitler took a whole group of SS to ancient Tibet and ancient India in the 30s, specifically seeking out the information of the Aryans, which they believe were the gods. Yeah. And this was how those guys traveled around. This is what we talked about in my Kingdom Cast episode about the Bell Project, the Nazi Bell Project. Yeah. So this here it goes on to say, according to this is going to be a tough word. I'm going to try it though. This is another text from the Vimanas Sutra. It goes on to say, according to the Rahasya Ginahadi Hakarai, Sutra number 2.
Very good.
The pilot, it's talking about the pilot of Vimanas. The pilot is one who knows the secrets. There were 32 secrets the pilot needed to learn from the competent preceptors, and only such a person was fit to be entrusted with an airplane, and no others. There are 32 secrets of the working of the Vimana. He must know the structure of the aeroplane, know the means of its takeoff and ascent to the sky, know how to drive it, and know how to halt it when necessary, how to maneuver it, and make it perform spectacular feats in the sky without crashing. Those secrets are given in the Rahasya Laha. And this, I have a citation at the very bottom here. It's from this quote is from the Aeronautical Society of India in present day by G.R. Joycer, International Academy of Sanskrit Research from 1973.
Wow. And Mikey, while you were gone, we were discussing that these concepts come from ancient India and that area from 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. They had these flying machines. Yes, bro.
So it goes on to say in that same I can't repeat the words, but in that same place I just quoted from, that same text, it goes on to say this is a specific maneuver one of those pilots had to know how to do. And it's called the Gudha. As explained in the Vayatatavava Prakarana, I totally messed that up. I'm sorry. If anyone's out there from India, I'm so sorry. It says, by harnessing the powers, the yasa, the viyasa, the prayayasa, in the 8th atmospheric layer covering the Earth to attract the dark content of the solar ray and use it to hide the Vimana from the enemy.
Bruh.
Guys.
Self-technology.
Guys, what are we looking at? This is the official Navy photo released in the United States of the UAP, the unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Blacked
the
out.
UFO. It's blacked out. How many of these have we seen where they're blacked out? And you wonder, why are they blacked out? Why can't I get any description of them? Why can't I see?
There's no details in it, right? Yeah. It takes the dark content of the solar array, like dark matter.
It's manipulating. You know how in the it's manipulating the different types of light within solar light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's putting off some kind of glow, it looks like.
This is just one maneuver. I'm going to get to another one where it makes it shine. You guys ready?
Yeah.
This is
like it's like names for anime attacks. Go ahead.
Yeah, literally. This is the Drashya. This means to be unseen. By collision of the electric power and the wind power in the atmosphere, a glow is created whose reflection is to be caught in the Vishwa Kriyadrapana, or it's a mirror at the front of the Vimana. And by its manipulation, they can make that shine, that glow, as camouflage over the Vimana.
Yeah, because it's not blacked out there; it's whited out, and that is we see that in these,
all the time.
Videos. Yeah,
all these home videos of people catching these glowing orbs going through the sky at crazy speeds of define left, right, up, down, define physics. Supposedly, they're glowing. You can't get a beat on them, even with modern good cameras. They literally have their own version of stealth camouflage, black and or glowing. This is an ancient technique from ancient Vedic texts.
That's wild.
Nothing new under the sun, guys. Nothing new. This is why they don't want anyone to know history. They have to teach all these watered down versions. They spend how many years teaching you about the American Civil War and the American Revolution and the War of 1812. But how many times did you learn about ancient India culture and history of the gods?
Or 4,000-year-old flying machines? It would completely contradict their narrative.
So here's some glowing orbs.
Mm-hmm. Bright white lights.
Here's some glowing orbs. This is not Starlink, guys. This was taken in 2013. Oh, they're gone. Oh, it's back.
Nope. Oh, that one's.
Two of them are just chilling. One's hanging out, and they're all going to start moving once they get information of some sort. Oh, it's going to get even crazier, guys. Stick with us if you're still watching right now. Looks like we had like 140 people watching active. Well, there's more than that watching. There's 140 people in the chat.
Cool.
So, guys, if you like what we're talking about and this is entertaining or exciting or interesting to you, hit that thumbs up. So
subscribe, share with the family and the friends. We appreciate you, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Guys, this is nothing new under the sun. This is ancient Vimana technology that we're seeing in modern time. Here's another clip that was released from an actual, I can't remember when this one was released, 2014, November 2014,
there it is.
From a helicopter pilot who saw this UFO, this UAP, and it started producing smoke out the back of it, okay? So this is an actual move recorded for those pilots in the ancient texts. And this is the Stadbach move, which means by projecting a pasmara, which is a poisonous fume, smoke through the tube on the north side of the Vimana and discharging it with Stambana yantra, I don't know what that means, people in enemy planes will be made unconscious.
What?
Oh.
So basically, look, if you have a craft trying to approach you, well, you just expel this outside of your craft, and when they get to that area to try to chase you, their craft is going to fly through that smoke and make them unconscious, and they'll crash.
No way. Weapons of wild proportions.
This is so there's the Vimana or the UAP, and there's the smoke that comes out of it.
Very well could be.
This wasn't a UFO that was crashing. This UFO was stationary, being filmed by this military helicopter pilot, and then in this video you see the smoke start to come out on the back of it and then envelop it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "What is that? What is it doing?" And it wasn't damaged. It's not. It maintained flight.
It's because they were taking a picture of it from in the air too.
Oh, and we're gonna get to that too. Watch this. Watch this. We're gonna get to that.
All right.
I don't have a picture of this, but this is another move from one of those that these ancient pilots were taught how to fly these Vimanas. This is the Chapla. It says on sighting an enemy plane by turning the switch in the force center in the middle section of the Vimana. At 4,087 revolutions an hour, atmospheric wave speed will be generated and shake up the enemy plane.
Oh.
This is a Yurukin. This is one plane to another shooting an energy blast.
A Hadouken?
Yeah. A Hadouken. I said the wrong word.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Kamehameha.
Here's another move, the Parashabda Grahaka. And this one is explained in the Saudamani Kala. It's another subset of the text. The science of electronics by means of the sound capturing yantra inside the Vimana to hear the talks and the sounds inside enemy planes flying in the sky.
Wow.
So if you go up here, these Vimanas in ancient times being filmed, like if this is a Vimana that we're seeing being filmed by this military helicopter, and that Vimana has the ability to receive the sound from enemy craft because they know these ancient techniques, then they know they got them in their sights and they're filming them. Yeah. That they may start to approach them, right? So they turn on the poisonous fumes.
Wow.
It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. Yeah. All right, you guys ready?
This is writings from the 70s, right?
You want me to take one slide for you, brother?
No, brother. This is writings from 4,000-year-old Vedic texts written in ancient Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this isn't science fiction from the 70s. This is from ancient India. Wow. Yeah, I apologize. You were out when we kind of jumped into this segment. So, but ultimately, from what we seen described about these Vimanas and how they were powered by these Mercury engines, did you guys know that NASA developed their own ion propulsion Mercury engine? I
assumed that they would if they could.
Yeah, and so just in case you guys didn't know that, let me back up a little bit. On my Kingdom Cast show, I talked about how in the 1980s there was a NASA researcher that declared if they wanted to actually accomplish AI, they needed to use Sanskrit as the language for programming because that was what's going to make them accomplish that.
It was a language without context, they said.
A language without context that could specifically be translated into AI code.
Wow.
So here's NASA also stealing ancient Hindu theology and aircraft designs, and they're even about to steal their propulsion engine. You ready?
Go ahead.
The way this is described is it impulses and generated in 7 stages. The mercury propellant is first vaporized, fed into the thruster discharge chamber, ionized and converted into plasma by a combination with electrons broken down and electrically and then accelerated through small openings in a screen to pass out of the engine at velocities between 1,200 to 3,000 kilometers per minute, or in terms Americans would understand, 745 to 1,800 miles per minute.
That would absolutely explain what these crafts in modern times have been explained to be able to do, the physics of them.
Guys, if you've ever stood, if you've ever seen, a jet going speed of sound at 700-800 miles an hour, like it's gone. Like you see it coming, you hear it coming, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
These are going minimum twice that speed with this Mercury ion propulsion engine that NASA was developing based off of ancient Vimanas from ancient India. Here's the picture of it.
Rocket motor, ion thruster, Mercury bombardment type, 8-centimeter SERT, National Air and Space Museum.
Smithsonian.
Yeah, we have a Joe Bugle in the crowd. What's up, Joe? He's saying they can cover one side of the firmament to the other in minutes at the speeds that we just talked about. Yes, they can. And in fact, we've got video of it. You guys want to watch a couple quick little videos? So this is someone, you guys remember what we talked about, okay? That the Vimanas, according to the ancient texts, the pilots were taught 32 special secrets, which is basically part of their training for flight. And some of those, they had to know how to stop the craft, raise it up and down, move fast. Also, these tricks about actually encountering enemies, camouflage themselves, attack the enemy in certain ways. Poison gas even, right? So here is this right here. This is triangle UFOs, and that's the shape of the Vimanas. Also triangles. I'm going to go over that in a minute.
Has that same glow, that same technique with the light.
So watch this, guys. I'm not going to go through the whole video. We'll cut to about right here. And watch what happens. This is just some random dude filming up.
Whoa. That was nuts.
Yeah.
Whoever's filming this is like, you can tell he's like maneuvering to try to keep it in focus,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's about to do something crazy, right? And it's exactly what we just read, guys. How these Mercury engines can create this type of thrust. Ion propulsion.
I would be shook as well.
Yeah.
Here it goes.
What's he going to do?
You think it's going to disappear? It starts to shine.
Oh!
Oh.
Who was that? Was that from the audio of the video? Or
Yeah, that was the random guy that was filming it.
He said, "Oh, wow, wild, wow, man."
Yeah. Another quick clip, real quick. This guy is. This is actually this famous NBC report that came out, and they're interviewing a couple different people. One of them is a retired Navy pilot who saw a Tic Tac UFO up close. Okay, and by the way, I didn't have time to put all the information in these slides. Saucer shapes, triangle shapes, like we read earlier, the gigantic planes, bell shapes, pyramid shapes, entire building shapes, which is more akin to like a large bell shape, where you could fit like a community of people on one of these Vimanas and fly slowly like a blimp, and then also Tic Tac shapes. They call them cigars, and specifically again, I don't have time to go through all the writings. There's thousands of pages of ancient Indian writings that detail this, and some of them even talk about the Asvians, which is their word translated from the Atlanteans, who had their own flying ships, which they called a cigar shape, which is like a Tic Tac, right? So check this out, guys. This is crazy.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. My God.
These 3 videos, released by the Department of Defense, have changed the way many people see what we can't explain.
The moment you mention UFO, immediately what comes to mind are little green men, tinfoil hats. That's not at all what we're dealing with.
In 2004, off the coast of California, an F-18 Super Hornet training exercise was suddenly interrupted by a call over the radio that would come to define Commander David Fravor's career.
You know, there's certain things in your life where you just remember in vivid detail what happened. And that's one of them, because it's honestly, the strangest, most obscure thing I've ever seen flying.
Fravor, the commanding officer of the Navy's Strike Fighter Squadron 41, and another F-18 scrambled to check out an unusual radar blip 80 miles off the coast.
Fisheye lens.
So as we're looking around, the backseater in the other airplane comes up and says, "Hey, Skipper, do you see?" And before he says it, I'm like, "Dude, do you see that?" As soon as we look down, we see the whitewater, and then we see this little white tic-tac. It's pointing north-south, and it's just going forward, back, left, right.
It's just bouncing around?
Yeah, like a ping pong ball.
What was its shape? What was its... what did it look like it was made out of?
Like a perfectly smooth white tic-tac. Or for people that...
Because that's actually one of the descriptions in the ancient text that I was reading about, is that the craftsmen, they talk about the Vimanas were made with precision detail, to where the metals were pieced together and perfectly smooth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
No
not talking
seams.
about, no seams. I mean, very, very high level. And in fact, there's an entire science I found and discovered last week, putting some of these notes together that I didn't know about previous. I've known about a lot of this stuff previously because I've been putting together my Investigating Babylon series, but apparently there's an entire science called powder metallurgy, where they take powders of metal, not the raw materials of metal, and smelt them down and reshape them, but they take powder of aluminum and then forge that into metal. And supposedly it's like
Seamless.
rust proof and super smooth, more aerodynamic. And apparently there's even another type of glass that can be molded into becoming completely camouflage, where you can't see the craft at all.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I'll let it keep going, but there's so much in the ancient texts that talk about these things that we're seeing in modern times.
Need a bigger visualization, a giant propane tank.
Fravor says the F-18s began circling, Fravor at 20,000 feet, and the so-called tic-tac only about 50 feet above the surface of the water.
And I say, "Hey, I'm going to go check this thing out." And the other pilot stays and says, "Hey, I'm going to stay up high." And then it starts coming up at us. We call it two-circle fight, but it's coming up, I'm coming down. So it literally is aware we're there. There's no doubt.
Almost like it heard them.
So here it is. I cut across, and I get to about half mile of it, so I'm about halfway across the circle. As it gets in front of me, it just goes poof, and it's gone. And it's gone like that fast.
What do you mean, poof, it's gone?
I mean, exactly that. Like, it's 1 minute it's there, and the next second, it's like magic trick. So I asked the other airplane, I said, "Hey, do you guys see that?" And they're like, "It's gone. It just disappeared."
When you saw this kind of performance, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
What the hell was that?
So guys, pardon my interruption to this real quick. There's just a few more minutes of this, but some of the other techniques of the pilots that I didn't get to put on the screen tonight because too much time and I didn't have any visuals to show. But one of the other techniques, in addition to being able to hear inside the enemy craft to hear what they're talking about, there was another technique supposedly allowed you to view remotely what the pilots were doing inside enemy craft.
Whoa.
I mean, nothing surprises me now. Like
Yeah,
after
right.
hearing, and it's just
So-
wow. Like we're often told that this technology, that the physics that they're performing, it can't be created on Earth. But the ancient, Vedic and Indian texts were just telling you, like the Mercury engines. They were telling you all the elements and things that they use to literally make them from Earth.
So when not only is remote viewing a big thing the government's been studying for about 40 years now, but I mean, this is occultic stuff, guys. This is not, I mean, it is technology, but at the same time, again, it's given by the Watchers, which it's occult. It's used for the occult. It also the reason why I'm mentioning that is because this guy being interviewed on screen right here, this particular NBC clip doesn't show his full interview. And it's in the full interview, it explains that when this thing disappeared, this tic-tac shaped UAP they saw disappeared, and they flew, the F-18 Hornets he and his squadron were piloting, they flew to another destination like 10 miles away. The tic-tac met them there. So that would make perfect sense if they could hear what they're talking about and somehow see
the readouts and know where they're going.
Their readout, know their coordinates. And then and of course it has superior speed, so it just flies there to meet. He's just playing with them.
Yeah.
The testimonies just kind of lined up with exactly what we're reading. So very interesting.
Crazy guys.
This is fascinating. I hope this is
Once
a
back
highly
on Carrier,
viewed episode.
Fravor's team told the next crew what had happened, and that crew took off ready to capture something on camera. And this is what they saw.
I guess the biggest question is, what do you think it is?
I honestly don't know. I don't think that we have developed that technology. I don't think we developed it on this planet. We still, to this day, have no idea what it was, what we saw, what we chased, what we engaged. But it was pretty spectacular.
A report from that incident eventually made its way to the Pentagon and crossed the desk of Luis Elizondo, the former director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
In essence, what that program was an investigatory body looking at what we call the UAP, probably in the vernacular, it's better known as the UFO phenomenon. The bottom line here is that over the past several decades, we in the Department of Defense and the intelligence community have been noticing things in our airspace that don't have wings, they don't have cockpits, they don't have even an obvious sign of propulsion like an engine, and yet still they're able to defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity.
In 2020, the Pentagon declassified 3 videos, the Tic Tac video and 2 others filmed on the East Coast in January of 2015. Other countries have made similar public disclosures. Also in 2004, the Mexican Air Force confirmed this video was shot by one of their pilots near the coast of Baja California.
That's what you were talking about earlier, the Mexican Air Force.
Just as a reminder to the audience, we just talked about the 2 different ways that the ancient Vimanas would camouflage themselves. One was to make themselves dark and unseen, and another one was to take the glow through a mirror and through the wind and the electronic disturbance at the front of the Vimana and project that glow around the craft to camouflage itself also. That's all we see in these government released videos.
Yeah.
Exactly those 2 descriptions.
In 2014, the helicopter from the Chilean Navy locked onto an unidentified object emitting what appeared to be some sort of gas or vapor. Both governments have said they investigated but couldn't determine what the objects
were. Looks like a chemtrail.
To those like science writer Sarah Scholes, clipped black and white videos always leave a lot to the imagination.
To me, the most interesting thing about the videos is how little information is in them. All we have are these, 30 seconds or a minute of something totally decontextualized. And so everybody kind of gets to think whatever they want to think about them because we don't actually have enough information to form any kind of conclusion, which is UFO's favorite space to live in, the muddy, fuzzy space. If the UFO field wants to be taken more seriously by scientists, I think they will kind of have to move away from the types of evidence that have historically been held up as adequate, like individual sightings, because the scientists can't really do anything with the story. They need data.
You guys see that? There's the triangle ones, all right? So here is an from the ancient Vedic text on the left-hand side about one of the Vimana shapes, and then there's sightings of triangle UFOs as well, even down to the same Mercury engine containers in the corners of the triangle-shaped UAP. These are ancient Vimanas, guys. They're not from outer space. They're not from another planet. They're not from Alpha Centauri. These are not interdimensional. They're literally ancient tech that's been reimagined by the governments of the world in connection with unclean spirits, in connection with the demonic forces of the world. This is the same information they've always had, but there's an agenda. There's a reason why they're bringing this out to the forefront now, because they've got a bigger game afoot.
The final card. Yeah, that's right.